Welcome to War Bioses, the podcast where we delve into the lives of history's most fascinating military leaders. I'm your host, General Biography, and today we're going to explore the life of Tipu Sultan, the legendary ruler of Mysore in 18th century India. Tipu Sultan was a man of unyielding ambition, unwavering conviction, and unrelenting passion for his people and his faith. His life was marked by remarkable achievements, brutal conflicts, and a legacy that continues to inspire and intrigue us to this day. Born on November 20, 1755, in Devanahalli, a small village near Bangalore, Tipu Sultan was the eldest son of Hyder Ali, a powerful military commander, and his wife, Fatima Fakhr Unnisa. The young prince's early life was shaped by the tumultuous politics of the Indian subcontinent, where European powers like the British, French, and Portuguese were vying for control, and local kingdoms like Mysore were fighting to maintain their independence. As a child, Tipu Sultan would often watch from the ramparts of his family's fort as armies clashed in the distance, the sound of cannons echoing through the valleys and the smell of gunpowder hanging heavy in the air. Tipu Sultan's childhood was marked by the constant presence of soldiers who would gather around him to tell tales of battles won and lost. His father, Hyder Ali, was a brilliant military strategist who had risen through the ranks of the Mysore army and had become one of its most powerful leaders. As a result, Tipu Sultan grew up surrounded by the trappings of war, learning the intricacies of military tactics and developing a deep understanding of the importance of strategy and leadership. He would often accompany his father on campaigns, watching as he expertly maneuvered troops and outwitted his enemies. The young prince's education was overseen by his father, who ensured that he received a comprehensive education in Islamic studies, literature, and mathematics. Tipu Sultan was an avid reader and developed a particular fondness for the works of great Muslim leaders like Aurangzeb and Nadir Shah. He spent hours poring over their campaigns, analyzing their strategies, and learning from their successes and failures. He was also trained in the arts of war, learning how to handle a sword, ride a horse, and command troops with precision and authority. As he grew older, Tipu Sultan became increasingly involved in his father's military campaigns, often accompanying him on battles against rival kingdoms and European forces. These early experiences had a profound impact on the young prince, teaching him the value of courage, discipline, and cunning on the battlefield. He witnessed firsthand the brutal realities of war, watching as cities were sacked, armies were slaughtered, and innocent civilians were caught in the crossfire. Yet, despite the horrors he saw, Tipu Sultan remained resolute, driven by a fierce determination to protect his people and his kingdom. The historical context of Tipu Sultan's early years was marked by significant events that shaped his character and future path. The Anglo-Mysore Wars, a series of conflicts between Mysore and the British East India Company, had begun in 1766 when Tipu Sultan was just 11 years old. These wars would continue for over 3 decades, shaping the young prince's worldview and informing his decisions as a military leader. He watched as the British East India Company, with its superior artillery and disciplined infantry, pushed deep into Indian territory, threatening the very existence of Mysore. As Tipu Sultan entered his teenage years, he became increasingly involved in the administration of Mysore, learning the intricacies of statecraft and governance from his father. He spent hours attending council meetings, listening as advisors debated policy and strategy. He also began to develop his own ideas about how to modernize Mysore's army and economy, drawing inspiration from European innovations like artillery and infantry tactics. Tipu Sultan was fascinated by the potential of these new technologies and saw them as key to countering the British threat. The year 1776 marked a significant turning point in Tipu Sultan's life, as his father, Hyder Ali, launched a major campaign against the British East India Company. The young prince, now 21 years old, played a key role in this campaign, demonstrating his bravery and military prowess on the battlefield. As they marched through the Indian countryside, Tipu Sultan rode at the head of his troops, his sword held high, his heart pounding with excitement. In this moment, Tipu Sultan stood at a crossroads, poised between the world of his father and the world of his own making. He had inherited his father's passion for warfare, his strategic genius, and his unwavering commitment to Mysore. Yet, he was also driven by his own ambition, his own sense of purpose, and his own vision for the future. As Tipu Sultan's military career gained momentum, he became increasingly obsessed with modernizing Mysore's army and defense systems, driven by a singular focus on protecting his kingdom from the looming threat of British expansion. In 1780, he launched a series of ambitious projects to strengthen his kingdom's fortifications, including the construction of the impressive Srirangapatna fortress, which would become his capital and stronghold. This imposing structure, with its granite walls and intricate network of tunnels and bastions, was designed to withstand even the most determined sieges, and it would play a crucial role in Tipu Sultan's future battles against the British. As he oversaw the construction of Srirangapatna, Tipu Sultan's mind was consumed by the lessons of history, particularly the conquests of his father, Hyder Ali. He knew that a strong fortress was not only a physical bulwark, but also a symbol of power and resilience. As the walls rose from the earth, he envisioned the battles that would soon rage across the Indian subcontinent, with the British seeking to expand their dominion over the region. One of the most significant events of this period was the Third Anglo-Mysore War, which began in 1789 and lasted for 2 years. During this conflict, Tipu Sultan faced off against the formidable British general, Lord Cornwallis, who had been dispatched to India with a large army and a mandate to crush Mysore's resistance once and for all. The war was marked by a series of brutal battles, including the siege of Bangalore, which lasted for several months and ended in a narrow victory for the British. As the siege raged on, Tipu Sultan's strategic mind was constantly at work, analyzing the strengths and weaknesses of his enemy, searching for vulnerabilities to exploit. He knew that Lord Cornwallis was a seasoned commander, but he also understood that the British army was not invincible. Tipu Sultan's own forces were well-trained and highly motivated, with a deep understanding of the terrain and a fierce loyalty to their leader. Despite being outnumbered, they fought valiantly, using innovative tactics such as guerrilla warfare and ambushes to harass and disrupt the British columns. The siege of Bangalore was a defining moment in the war, a test of wills between two determined leaders. Tipu Sultan's forces had fortified the city, using its walls and bastions to devastating effect against the British artillery. However, Lord Cornwallis's army was relentless, pounding the city with cannon fire and gradually weakening its defenses. As the siege dragged on, Tipu Sultan was forced to make a difficult decision, to risk everything in a desperate bid to break the siege or to withdraw his forces and regroup for a future battle. In the end, the British emerged victorious, but at great cost. The city lay in ruins, its people battered and bruised. Tipu Sultan's army had fought bravely, but they were ultimately outnumbered and outgunned. As he withdrew his forces from the city, Tipu Sultan knew that this was not the end of the war. He would regroup, recharge, and strike back at the British with all the ferocity at his command. The years that followed were marked by a period of relative peace, during which Tipu Sultan focused on rebuilding his economy and modernizing his administration. He introduced a range of innovative reforms, including the creation of a new system of land ownership, which allowed peasants to own their own land and pay taxes directly to the state. This reform helped to increase agricultural production and reduce poverty, and it earned Tipu Sultan a reputation as a just and enlightened ruler. Tipu Sultan was also a patron of the arts and sciences, and he encouraged scholars and poets to come to his court. He was particularly interested in the study of mathematics and astronomy, and he commissioned several important works on these subjects, including a treatise on trigonometry that was translated into several languages. His court was renowned for its learning and culture, and it attracted visitors from all over India and beyond. One notable example of Tipu Sultan's military genius was his use of rocket artillery, which he had developed with the help of French engineers. These rockets, which were made of bamboo and iron, were highly effective against enemy cavalry and infantry, and they played a key role in several of Tipu Sultan's battles against the British. The use of rockets also inspired the development of similar technologies in Europe, and it marked an important milestone in the history of warfare. As Tipu Sultan looked out over his kingdom, he knew that he faced many challenges, from the threat of British invasion to the problems of poverty and inequality. But he was undaunted, driven by a fierce determination to protect his people and his land, and to build a better future for generations to come. His legacy would be complex and multifaceted, marked by both triumphs and tragedies, but it would endure for centuries, inspiring countless Indians and others around the world. In the midst of these challenges, Tipu Sultan found solace in his faith and his people. He was a devout Muslim, and he saw himself as a defender of Islam and a champion of justice. His court was a haven for scholars and poets who came to seek his patronage and his wisdom. As he navigated the treacherous waters of Indian politics, Tipu Sultan remained steadfast in his commitment to his principles, always seeking to do what was right and just, even in the face of overwhelming odds. As Tipu Sultan navigated the complexities of his later years, the weight of responsibility hung heavy on his shoulders, like the imposing walls of his fortified strongholds that stood sentinel against the encroaching British forces. The scent of gunpowder and smoke wafted through the air, a constant reminder of the battles he had fought and won, but also of the wars he was yet to win. Despite these pressures, Tipu Sultan remained resolute in his commitment to defending his kingdom and his people, driven by an unyielding determination that burned within him like a fire that refused to be extinguished. As he walked through the labyrinthine corridors of his palace, the soft rustle of silk and the gentle chime of windcatchers filled the air, a stark contrast to the chaos and destruction that ravaged the battlefields outside. Tipu Sultan's eyes, piercing and intense, seemed to bore into the very soul of his advisors, as if searching for any hint of weakness or treachery. One notable example of Tipu Sultan's diplomatic efforts was his attempt to form an alliance with the French, who were also seeking to counter British influence in India. The intricacies of this diplomatic dance were played out against the backdrop of a rapidly shifting geopolitical landscape, where empires rose and fell like the ebb and flow of the tides. As he once said, "I would rather live a day as a tiger than a lifetime as a sheep," highlighting his unwavering commitment to resisting British domination. These words, spoken with a fierce passion that seemed to ignite the very air around him, captured the essence of Tipu Sultan's character, a man who would stop at nothing to defend his kingdom and his people, even if it meant facing overwhelming odds and certain defeat. In the final years of his life, Tipu Sultan faced increasing pressure from the British, who launched a series of military campaigns against his kingdom. The sound of cannons booming in the distance, the scent of blood and sweat, and the cries of the wounded all served as a grim reminder that the war was far from over. Despite his valiant efforts, Tipu Sultan was ultimately killed in battle on May 4, 1799, during the Fourth Anglo-Mysore War. His death marked the end of an era for the Kingdom of Mysore and paved the way for British expansion into southern India. As news of his death spread, a sense of shock and grief settled over the kingdom, like a shroud cast over the land. The people of Mysore mourned the loss of their beloved leader, who had given his life in defense of their freedom and way of life. But as the dust settled on the battlefield, it became clear that Tipu Sultan's legacy would endure long after his passing. Today, Tipu Sultan is remembered as a hero and a champion of Indian independence. His legacy extends far beyond his military campaigns, as he is also celebrated for his contributions to literature, art, and architecture. The numerous palaces, mosques, and other buildings he commissioned during his reign remain testaments to his refined taste and cultural sophistication, a lasting tribute to the man who had brought so much beauty and elegance to the kingdom. Tipu Sultan's impact on modern India is still felt today, as his resistance against British colonialism serves as an inspiration to many Indians who continue to struggle for social justice and equality. As the Indian historian Mohibul Hassan once observed, Tipu Sultan was a true patriot who fought against foreign rule and died a martyr's death. His memory will always be cherished by the people of India. These words serve as a poignant reminder that even in the face of overwhelming odds, one person can make a difference, and that the power of resistance against oppression can never truly be extinguished. In conclusion, Tipu Sultan's life was marked by remarkable courage, resilience, and determination. From his early days as a prince to his later years as a king, he remained steadfast in his commitment to defending his kingdom and his people. Tipu Sultan's story serves as a powerful reminder that even in the face of overwhelming odds, one person can make a difference, and that the impact of their actions can be felt for generations to come. That's all for today's War Bios. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, I'm General Biography reminding you to keep marching toward victory.